everyone. Welcome to Talk to Us today. I'm Simrit.
And I'm Namita. And today on TalktousToday, we will be discussing something I have been introduced to recently. That's Yoga Nidra. So, Yoga Nidra is a form of guided meditation and a form of yogic sleep. And now these are just definitions, and I found on the internet, and I understood from my practice. But we have someone with us today who introduced both of us to Yoga Nidra. She is a yoga teacher who specializes in Yoga Nidra, Malika Rajan. Welcome to TalktousToday, Malika. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Malika.
Thank you.
So, before we get into what you're doing and all, let's just start with the real definition of what Yoga Nidra actually is in short.
Okay, so it's made up of two words, yoga and nidra. Yoga is basically a state of union, of integration, right? And nidra in its own means sleep. So when you combine the two terms, it's basically a conscious way to enter a state of integration. So yoga nidra is yogic sleep, as Namita was saying, but there's a lot more behind the simple definition. So every night, when you go to sleep, one thing has to happen for you to fall asleep. And that is you have to release your thoughts, right? But you do this unconsciously. You don't go to sleep thinking, at this point, I will release my thoughts. And at that point, I will fall asleep. It just happens unconsciously. But in Yoga Nidra, we enter the same state of no thoughts consciously. So the whole process follows where we go into that state of no thoughts in a very conscious way, which is what yoga is. It's all about being aware. It's all about being conscious. Another way to look at it is it's a sleep-based meditation. It's meditation made easy. So meditation is also a state of complete awareness, and we are entering this state with consciousness. So we're completely aware that we're entering the state of awareness. Another way to look at it is it's about experiencing your whole being where the mind is set aside. So, when we are in our waking state, we're so conditioned by our past, by all our experiences, that we don't, often you'll ask people will wonder, who am I? And they don't really know the core of who they are because they've been told who they are through their experiences and their interactions in life. But in Yoga Nidra, you're entering that state of no thought, no conditioning. So you get to experience your own being. That is where the mind is completely set aside. So that's a very long answer to your simple question.
Well, I have taken Yoga Nidra sessions with you. I mean, I took them off and on for about 8-9 months, and I loved them, I have to say. And I'm somebody who doesn't like to nap in the afternoons, but it took me, I'm sure when they're training you, like half of it is how calm your voice is, honestly. Like, it was so calm. And you would tell me to take these intentions, right? When you're like, and that's what you do. But it took me 2 or 3 sessions to really get into it because I was like, I keep falling asleep. And then I remember I kind of talked to you, and then you're like, no, don't worry about it. You think you're sleeping, but it's like conscious sleeping, like you said.
Right.
But now, just for the layman, no insult here, but how is it really different, and how is it different beneficially from just napping in the afternoon?
Yeah. So when we are napping in the afternoon, we're basically going, like I mentioned, going into the process unconsciously, right? So you're not aware that you're entering that state, which means when you come out, you could be a little groggy, you could be a little, you're not aware of your surroundings. Whereas in Yoga Nidra, think of it like this. The mind is conscious, but the body is in a complete state of rest. So the Nidra is for the body and the yoga is for the mind. So when you combine the two, it's a deep, deep state of relaxation, but done consciously. So they say 3 hours of 45 minutes of Yoga Nidra is equivalent to 3 hours of deep sleep and deep uninterrupted sleep, which we don't often even get at night because we're so consumed by our thoughts that we come in and out of sleep. We're having all these experiences. Now, what you were saying about falling asleep, initially when we start this practice, a lot of people don't have a good experience of rest even in their normal lives. So when we take them into the state of yoga nidra, they get to actually completely relax and let go. So initially they do fall asleep, and that's perfectly normal. But then, like any practice, once you get into it and you train yourself to stay awake and follow the guidance, then you experience that same state of relaxation, but you do it consciously. And why do we emphasize so much on consciously is because the whole point of yoga is we want to be living life in this yogic way where we're aware of everything that's happening, but we're not consumed by the ups and downs of life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, right, yoga is basically equanimity of mind. But what does equanimity of mind mean? It means that when there are ups and downs of life, you can see them and you can just let them go. You don't get consumed by the ups and downs. So in some ways, in this practice, you're training yourself to do that.
You mean to say it's like training the brain to let go while you're sleeping? Something like that?
Exactly. And also, that's one of the ways you can think of it as is, let me rephrase this. Yoga Nidra is a practice of non-doing. So essentially in the body, we have the autonomic nervous system, which is basically divided up into the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, right? The sympathetic is all about doing. It's all about getting out there and getting things done. The parasympathetic is all about letting yourself just be. But the problem is we get so much stuck in the doing, and not just physical doing, but also, let's say you and I have had a conversation that was not easy. We then obsess about it. So even when the conversation is done, we'll be sitting and thinking about it. We're stuck in that doing. So the time we should have been resting, we're not actually allowing the body to come back into balance. We're actually stuck in the doing. So how does the body reset itself? It needs to find that balance. And Yoga Nidra is the tool to bring you back into balance because it starts releasing the doing. You can't let go of doing. You have to release the doing. You have to just let it happen automatically. When that happens, the being automatically happens. Wow. So it's a practice of non-doing. It's an effortless practice of releasing the doing part so the being can show up. Now, when that happens, when the balance is restored, automatically you will learn to sleep better because now you're training yourself to release the doing. You will function better when you're awake because now you're learning how to say, okay, the conversation's over. Now I can just relax. I don't need to obsessively think about it. So you're interrupting thought patterns that if I tell you right now, just let it go, don't think about it. You're going to be like, haha, theek hai, but then you'll keep thinking about it.
That's
when you've trained your mind, then you will say, I can release this. So I can just come back into a state of rest. Wow. So it's like going to the gym. You start with small weights, you build it up, and then you see the practice making a shift in your life, and it interrupts your stressful thought patterns. So if there's something that triggers you, we've seen with Yoga Nidra, people will say, after a few months, I realized that thing doesn't bother me anymore. But they don't know why. Because they have learned to just let it go without actually letting it go. They've allowed themselves to enter that state of rest where the letting go happened automatically.
Oh, this is very interesting. It's very deep. And this is very fascinating, Malika. But, I want to know more about you. How did you get into this? Like this whole Yoga Nidra, and what was your introduction into yoga? And how did you decide to teach yoga, in fact? And this has changed your life, I'm sure, in some way.
It has. So I worked in corporate life for many years. I was living in the US and I worked for about 15, 16 years in corporate life and hated every minute of it, basically.
Okay, I want to say something here because I just read this on your site when I wasn't aware of this at all. So you went to St. Stephen's in Delhi, which is one of the prestigious clubs, and then you went to Harvard. That's like, academically, you can't do better. So obviously then you were not gearing to be a yogic teacher, right?
Probably not consciously,
Cautiously, right? Yeah.
but unconsciously it brought me to this conscious path.
Yeah. So you were in the corporate life. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's fine. So I was in corporate life for many years, hated every minute of it. I was basically trying to fit in and be someone I'm not. And I think I was in this constant turmoil of, I can see I'm not these people, but I'm constantly trying to change myself to fit in, and that wasn't working for me. So, in yoga, we're always asking, like, who am I? Here, I was in this constant battle of, I don't even know who I am when I'm in this environment. And there was no opportunity to come back to that space because you're being sucked into this role play all the time. So, fortunately, I lost my job in 2016, and and then I
Most people
found
don't say
my.
that.
Oh, I'm so happy I did. And then I think at that point I knew I was done. And I found my way to an ashram in Florida. I think I went to volunteer there, and 3 weeks after being there, I knew that was where I belonged. And, I had had a connection with this ashram previously without knowing. I had studied with a teacher, senior teacher from the ashram, who I didn't know was connected to the ashram. So I feel it was all meant to be. And then I moved there. I was there for 3 years, and it just felt very natural for me to study and teach. And also, ashram is a hot spot for people's triggers because you are in this vulnerable space where you're studying yoga, which is an extremely sensitive practice. So, people always think that yogis are always in the state of bliss. That's a journey to get to that space. But to get to that space, you have to first go through shedding a lot of layers of samskaras, impressions, which actually can end up looking very ugly. So these tools really help you to support that process. So I was there for about 3 years. It just so happened that the ashram had a lot of emphasis on yoga nidra, which I didn't know at the time. So it just felt natural. And it's a modality that also resonated with me because meditation is actually not a simple and easy practice. Whereas in this practice, in the first time you can enter that state. There are a lot of people who can have an experience of meditation the first time they do it. And what I love about this practice is you don't need to be touching your toes. You don't need to do any crazy postures. You just need to lie down or sit. One of the two is a requirement. And it's available to anyone, any age group, any community, it doesn't matter. So I think it's one of those practices that can bring a lot of people together. So that's why it just felt like a good practice to be in.
No, as you mentioned, that it is anybody can practice it, and that does include children.
Of course, you can. It's very good for children.
Active.
Yeah, there are different ways you can do it with children. The practice will, of course, be a lot shorter because of their attention span. We also have kids yoga nidra cards that we use. So sometimes with adults, I do children's yoga nidra because it allows adults to enter that playful space. And when you enter that playful, vulnerable space, you end up letting go a lot more. You're more relaxed. So we do things with butterflies, with marbles, with just funny techniques, but it allows adults to relax a lot more.
Okay.
So it's called yoga. It's like yoga nidra is yoga actually. But like almost when you were saying you don't have to touch your toes so it's almost like yoga for the lazy people. But yeah, is it more meditation than anything? I mean, that's just a joke.
Yeah, I mean, even asana practice is done for meditation. Pranayama practice is done to reach a state of meditation, and asana means seat. So we're basically building the body to sit in a space for meditation. When we do pranayama, we're basically releasing the energy blocks by connecting to the prana and the body. So every practice of yoga is done to reach the final goal of meditation. And we do it through the process of dharana, dhyana, and meditation, right? Samadhi. So yoga nidra is basically taking you to that state every single time because you're entering your subconscious. and you're getting to that space which is beyond the mind.
Okay. So
You can say it's meditation made easy.
It's meditation made easy. That's what you're saying.
Basically, yeah.
Wow. And you saw some health benefits as well when you did, like we all have kinks and whatnot, but you found physical health benefits when you became a full-time practitioner?
I think most diseases are basically a form of imbalance in the body.
Right.
So when you're practicing something like this, you're essentially trying to say, let the mind be put, give the mind a rest so the body can do what it needs to do to heal itself. Because the body has an innate intelligence, but where that amount of energy is limited. Because what happens is when we overthink, instead of that energy getting used to heal the body, it's getting used for our thoughts. So every time going into Yoga Nidra, we're basically giving the mind a rest so that that same energy can now do the work it needs to do. So automatically there are going to be health benefits. Some people, see more physical benefits. Some people see more mental benefits. I think it just depends person to person. We've heard lots and lots of stories at the ashram where someone came, where their hand was just stuck, and during the Yoga Nidra, they were about to open it. They were able to open it. Then I had a person who came for the Yoga Nidras in one of my workshops, and she said she had cancer, and for 30 years she couldn't lie on her back. And during the practice, 45 minutes, she could lie on her back because the mind was not interrupting and telling her she can't lie down. The mind was just taking a back seat. So basically, the body could do what it needed to do because the mind is the culprit. So the mind has a very powerful role in our lives, but we misuse it when we overthink, when we worry, when we stress, and we rob the body's energy from doing what it needs to do. So Yoga Nidra just interrupts that process.
It does really
awesome.
make sense to me. I remember long time ago, I learned about Feldenkrais practice. I don't know. Feldenkrais says that brain and body is connected. So if there is any obstruction in the movement of the body, there's somewhere here, there's an obstruction. And similarly, if there is some challenges here, you need to make your body work so that it's whatever you any obstructions there, it will automatically if you practice physically removing that obstruction, then it will open up that connection in the brain. So this is how it is connected. The brain and body is connected.
Right.
As you mentioned, it just opens up those blocks. So it just opens up the neurons connections, or maybe develop new connections for that particular maybe movement. That brain now knows, oh, this is also possible. Oh yes, my hand can move like this also. So so that's really amazing.
And the thing is, when we go through life and we have difficult conversations or difficult experiences, we're not able to process everything. Some people shut down, some people withdraw. This is the whole fight or flight response, right? Or freeze response. What does that basically mean is we're not able to fully engage in that process. So we shut down, or we run, or we want to fight. But that will manifest in the body in the form of blocks, energy blocks, like you were saying. Right. So we want to release those energy blocks. And the ways to do it is through asana practice, through pranayam, through forms of meditation, which Yoga Nidra is one of them, because we are now connecting to the prana, that life force within. And when the life force begins to move freely in the body, it releases those energy blocks. So they say trauma lives in the cells, which is why even if you have learned to avoid toxic situations and you've learned to navigate through life by interacting with certain kind of people and not interacting with certain kind of people, if you have some triggers within you, they're living in your cells and they're dormant. And when the right person shows up, suddenly you will get triggered and you'll be like, wait, I thought I dealt with this. Yeah. But because you haven't actually dealt with it, it's sitting in the cells. Now, in our mind, we can't access that because we've trained the mind cleverly to avoid certain peoples and situations, right? But the body knows that a certain thing is going to trigger me. I'm going to have a reaction. the only way to access those blocks are through forms of meditation, where we move the body, through forms of asanas and meditation, where we're moving the body, we're allowing that energy to flow so that we can release the blocks. So that then, when I say complete awareness, you enter a conversation with, as if you're in the present moment with the person. You're not coming into the conversation with any pre-programmed thoughts about the person. And that is a state of complete awareness.
So
This is amazing. I forgot for a while that we're doing this interview. Honestly, because I've done it with you, but I haven't really paid attention. This is like therapy, isn't it? It's really like therapy for certain.
I love this definition of the difference between a yoga practice and typical therapy. And I want to say, when I say that, is both are equally important, first of all.
Right.
Because initially, you need to be heard, you need to say a story. And the whole point about yoga is that you learn to become the witness. So instead of being a character in the movie, you learn to watch the movie. So you're seeing the movie, you're seeing things happen in your life, but you're not getting attached to them, right? So you have to learn to be the witness. Now, the thing with therapy initially is you don't know how to be the witness because you're so sucked into your own story. So you have a therapist who's watching the story for you, and eventually through their perspective, they should show you how to become the witness. So they tell you, can you see how you were doing this? And perhaps would you have a different choice or something? In yoga practice, we say, if you imagine a tree and a rope, and then you go through life and you keep winding this rope around a tree, you keep winding it. In therapy, you spend time unwinding the rope. In yoga, we burn the rope through all these practices. So we're basically saying we want to get rid of that rope because that rope is what's keeping us bound. So these practices of asana, pranayama, meditation are basically intense practices to burn that rope, and which is what we're burning essentially our seeds, our samskaras.
Interesting.
So spiritual journey is actually a very intense journey. It's actually a very cathartic journey, and it can actually bring up a lot for people. I always say, if you don't feel like you want to give up, then you probably haven't reached the pinnacle of your spiritual journey.
Absolutely.
So, Malika, while you were, telling all this thought came to my mind. Sometimes people are scared, scared of unwinding whatever is there because of any various reasons. So, how to really, really push them, or how
get
to
over that fear?
They should themselves to just unwind that or do, or maybe they, everybody knows, there are some practices. One is yoga nidra, meditation. We all know that there are so many practices which can help us, but somewhere we're still hesitant to go for them. So why is that so? If you could just maybe with your
I'm smiling here because I've asked the same question. I know eating right is good for me, but I still want to eat my chips and my Coke and my ice cream, right? We all know what's good for us.
Here, buddy.
So it's not like we don't know yoga and all these things are good for us. I think ultimately it's your personal motivation. I now have a knee injury, so it's given me a motivation to look after my health a lot more, right? Before also, I knew exercise was good for me, but I didn't have that motivation, right? Similarly, with yoga, meditation, all these practices, it's good for you. Some people do it for maintenance. For me personally, it came from a space of needing it because I was at a very miserable space in my life. And I didn't feel that if I had the support of these practices, I would have survived, to be very honest, So for me, it was that motivation that kept me going. And fortunately, because I was at the ashram and because I had been surrounded by teachers who were constantly talking about these things and what Kundalini can do for you and how these energy practices can remove your samskaras, I'd come to the point where I knew I couldn't deal with it with my mind anymore. And I needed something deeper to take care of my past, to remove things that I have come into this life with that need to be released. So the motivation for me was very personal. That's why you can't push anyone. You can't tell someone do it. You can give them an experience. That's why I invite people to the Yoga Nidra and say, come experience it, whatever it does for you. And if it's part of your journey, like I feel spirituality was part of my journey, I was meant to heal in this life. So it found me in this space. And I took the opportunity, and I'm at a very good place today. So I feel very fortunate. But a lot of people come to that point where they have to make that choice whether they want to take advantage of what they've been offered or not. And sometimes what I mean by being offered is if you are completely despondent with life, that is an opportunity to realize you have an opportunity to fix it. Right? Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun and Krishna are in conversation, and the only time Arjun is seeking this level of consciousness when he's completely dejected.
Yeah.
So you have to realize that being dejected is the greatest opportunity to try to take care of it consciously in your life.
Yeah. And if you can do it before that, hats off to you.
Exactly. It's a tool. So if you start building, if I build my leg muscle.
Right. If you viewers out there think that you're getting pushed against a wall, come before it's before you can't breathe.
Yeah, like if I had gone to the gym and built my leg muscles, I probably would have avoided the knee injury long before it happened.
Yeah, and then you're at a point where you just have to, and then that's a good thing because then at least you are taking some action.
Yeah, and when we say yoga is being in the present and the now, think of it like the moment you have decided to change your life, that is the moment of now. And that is the moment of yoga where you decide, I'm going to turn the journey inward. I'm going to live a conscious journey, and every action of mine is going to support my journey.
That's brilliant.
That's amazing.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Malika. I've learned a lot. I don't know about everybody. I'm sure all our viewers are quite.
Every second of it, I was loving in the way when she was talking.
Same here. Oh you're wonderful. Obviously, you're a wonderful teacher because you've been able to we both didn't feel like we were we're interviewing you. We're your students right now.
I feel like diving deep into your thoughts and
no, I'm actually mentally, I'm like, oh, I gotta get back on this. I'm gonna be scheduled. I'm gonna be calling you after this and definitely scheduling some more. I mean, I need it right now for sure.
Oh, definitely.
So thank you so much, Malika.
Thank you so much for having me. And you both are so excited. It's so cute to watch.
We are always excited.
We're always excited to try new things, but both of us love to stay positive as much as possible. So, and that's part of it, right? Being open to growth. And that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
awesome.
Malika, this was amazing. Loved it. You are a great teacher because you had both of us captivated completely. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. That's all on Talk to Us today. We really loved this session. This is something new we've done, and I think we're going to be having you more often on this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, to take a class with Malika, please check our description box with all her contact details and her website. There's if you watch till the end of this the show today, the episode, you'll have a link to her sample video, which is also on YouTube. So click that, take a look. But trust me, I benefited a lot. I don't know why I gave that up. Just you get caught up.
I'm looking forward to it. I am
same here.
Also, if anyone wants to try a class, they're welcome to join in. I feel it's most beneficial when you try it for yourself.
Yeah.
Wonderful. How helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Malika. Thank you so much.
And
thank you.
All the viewers out there, do let us know what you think about our today's episode by emailing us at hello@TalktousToday.com or comment below in the comment section. And do let your friends know where to find us. And the most important thing, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to stay notified of our new videos every Friday at 6 p.m. Thanks for joining us on Talk to Us today. Remember to talk about
Talk to Us today.
That we always
Smiling.
Yeah, keep laughing. And keep talking.
And keep talking. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Malika.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye.